Here's some more advice on how to make your realtor website more attractive to seniors. Hi, my name's Paul Kavanagh, and in this short video, I'm going to be focusing on messaging that resonates. One of the key things is that you want to differentiate yourself from other realtors who don't have the same focus on downsizing. But one of the challenges is that if you specialize in serving seniors, the very audience that you're trying to reach may go, so what? You specialize in serving seniors. How's that a benefit to me? So the trick is to put yourself in their shoes. They may be asking, why should I consider you as opposed to some other realtor I already know? How is downsizing different from other moves? Why should I trust you? In a previous video, I showed you a short biography that in many ways tries to address some of those particular questions. But here's something to remember. Some of the seniors you're trying to attract may not even be looking for a realtor. In other words, they don't want a sales pitch. And no matter how well you word your introduction, it's talking about you, so it may come across as a sales pitch. So what can you do differently? Well, you can start where they're at. And that means talking about their situation rather than yourself. So here's how that might look. So here's a passage, a sample hook. You love your home, but it's beginning to feel too big for you. Maybe you're fed up with looking after your yard, or it's getting harder to manage the stairs at home, or you're lonely living on your own, or you're just feeling a little stuck where you are in your life right now. You're thinking it might be time to consider a move. There's a lot to consider, and you could use some helpful advice. So you see how this describes the situation that they're in fairly specific terms, right? And there's also an emotional component. So you're recognizing some of the emotions that they're going through. But notice you haven't talked about yourself at all. So this sort of lead in can be a good way of making a connection with someone, particularly if they're one of those seniors who isn't really looking for a realtor. But they're going, oh, okay, yes, this is the situation that I'm in. And then they're much more likely to read on from there. So if you have a passage like this, you might want to start here before introducing yourself. And what that might look like on a website, well, you could place this above your short biography on your homepage. Or you could place it at the top of a separate web page where you highlight your services for seniors. So you may serve many different types of clients, and you may choose to have a separate section for your senior services. And this particular passage might be a good fit for the beginning of that section. So here's a messaging checklist, some things that you might want to include in your website, and maybe even in other marketing materials as well. Language that shows seniors you understand their circumstances at a practical and emotional level. So that sample hook that I just showed you, that's an example of that. Your short bio with possibly an extended bio attached to that. What you do that's special and why it's of value to them. Why you can be trusted, and that might be in the form of testimonials or case studies, as well as a clear call to action. And by a call to action, that's the next step you want them to take. That's what I mean by call to action. And I'm going to go into more detail about that in the next video. In the meantime, here's some design and copywriting pointers. Keep blocks of text short. So you'll notice that in that sample, there weren't any long paragraphs. I broke things up and there was a lot of space in between. So lots of white space can make things much more easy to read. Because when we encounter blocks of text, particularly on a screen, and they're big blocks of text, we go, oh, I don't want to deal with that, and we move on to something else. Using age-friendly font size. So that might be 20 point or higher. I see a lot of websites, surprisingly enough, that are geared towards seniors that have, you know, smaller font type. And it's just not as comfortable to read for any of us, in fact. Use images to amplify the message or feeling you're trying to convey. And use language seniors who are considering downsizing might use to describe their own situation. So again, think back to that sample I showed you. That whole issue of feeling stuck or, having problems with the stairs. That's fairly plain language that anyone is likely to use. And then the other important thing is to identify the geography you serve. So in the introduction that I showed you earlier, talked about that particular realtor, Maya, being in the Bakersfield area. And it's important to identify that because obviously you're looking for people in your particular geographic area that you can serve. And it's just smart to highlight that. So, as I've been referencing along, the messaging you develop for your website can be used elsewhere. So, any effort that you put into developing copy for your website will pay off when you're looking at developing other marketing materials as well. That language can carry through. So that's it for this particular video. Just want to invite you to a 30-minute no-cost coaching call. I offer this to realtors who want to find the right words to attract seniors. And you can sign up for that by either using the QR code or entering the URL that you see on the screen. So I hope to talk to you soon. Bye for now.